Welcome to the Money Matters EmpowerHer Podcast, where we're redefining what financial independence looks like for women. I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. The women sharing their journeys here aren't just telling stories, they're change makers. Their experiences, strategies, and financial outlooks carry real power to inspire transformation in your own life. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Money Matters EmpowerHer Podcast. This is where we have honest, uplifting conversations that inspire women to grow their influence, navigate life's pivots with courage, and build a life and wealth that reflects who they really are. So I'm excited today to have with me Jane Pollack. Jane is not only an artist, she's an author, and she's a coach. And she is doing some extraordinary work in the world. And I can't wait for you to hear her story, how she got here, and what she's learned along the way, and how she's helping others rise as they grow their own wealth and purpose. So I would love, Jane, to start with the heart of it all. If you would take about 90 seconds to tell us what it is you do. I know you do multiple things, but what it is that you're focusing on now and how you got here and why is it important to you?
That's a lot for 90 seconds, Donna, but I'll give it a
I
try.
know, but we got
As
a
a New
whole
Yorker,
conversation going, so we're good.
as a New Yorker, I talk fast, so they can slow it down, put it on half speed if necessary. But I was identified early as the artist in the family. Kind of, my mother labeled us, and I was the artist. My sister was the writer. My brother was a funny one. So I got recognized as an artist, and through school, it wasn't academic to be an artist. But when I got to college, I majored in art and started teaching art, and I learned a craft called Ukrainian Easter eggs, which I pursued for 30 years, which got me a lot of headline news. I was on the Today Show, I was in the New York Times, I was in multiple magazines when magazines were around. And I got a little bit famous for that. Also figured out how to run a business doing something that you love. So I wrote a book called Soul Proprietor, SOUL Proprietor, 101 Lessons from a Lifestyle Entrepreneur. And that gave me a platform for, I had written a book, Decorating Eggs, which sold extremely well, but Soul Proprietor put me in front of audiences of other entrepreneurial women, and I just shared my experience with them. Been doing that since the early 2000s. I've been speaking and coaching, and then I let go of the egg decorating in the early 2000s and then started another craft in 2020, right at the pandemic. I started doing penny rug pillows, which is putting me on the map again in a different way. But all along the way, I've coached women entrepreneurs because that's my sweet spot, particularly women who are creative, to follow their passion. And when you talk about building wealth, I'm going to say more like security, because to me, wealth means like you have millions of dollars, but I have, as my financial advisor said, you won't run a deficit until you're 94. And I said, I can live with that. So I'm living the life of my vision, fully able to do everything that I want to do. And that's, funded until I'm 94, which is, I'll say, 17 years from now. So I think I'm doing okay. So that's my definition of wealth, is really having what you need to live the life that you want.
And I love you providing that clarity because it literally does mean something different to most everybody that I talk to. And I'm going to share one thing that I find very fascinating is that being an artist, and of course this is a stereotype, there's no validity to it, I'm sure, but the artists aren't typically the best in the way of managing businesses. It's just not your forte. I say yours, it being artists in general. So the fact that your sweet spot is not only being such a world-renowned artist, but also teaching people about entrepreneurship. That's awesome. That's so awesome.
I remember going. One of the things is I'm a lifelong learner, and I would go to luncheons where there would be women entrepreneurs speaking. And there was a woman, Noelle, who started one of the first day spas in Stamford, Connecticut. And she had a woman, this is what, like, when computers were just coming in. I mean, that's how long ago it was. And she had a graphic designer, and she said, "I want you to do a brochure." And the graphic designer said, "I don't know how to use Quark," or whatever the design things were. And Noelle's one word response to her was, "Learn."
Mm.
And I love that because I don't know how to do Instagram. I didn't know how to do Excel. I didn't know how to do anything, but it's all teachable. It's not rocket science. And now with YouTube, there's no excuse. But I've taught myself things that I didn't think I shouldn't have to know how to do this, but you do. And I just watched the Billy Joel documentary, and he didn't take care of his own money until decades in. And a brother-in-law cheated him out of everything. It's like we don't get to shrug our shoulders and say, "I don't do that." We have to, as entrepreneurial women, we have to do all of it or delegate it, but at least understand what goes into it. Giving away the responsibility for your money is not acceptable.
And I couldn't agree with that anymore. As a matter of fact, giving away your power. I'm going to share with you. This is, I don't know if you can read that or not, but this is my motto. I hope it doesn't offend anybody. It's not intended to be offensive, but in line with what Jane just said, women, we have to be good stewards of our money. And even if it's not our forte, we have to have a seat at the table because it's not an if we're going to be on our own, it's a when because we either outlive men or we end up getting divorced sometimes. So it's, that's kind of my soapbox, so to speak. But let's
Well, it's
get back to
yeah, I was say it's important, and I'm so glad that's your message because women even today are, letting somebody else take care, whether it's a man or somebody else. It's just like you are responsible. It's like, your own nutrition, your own financial plan is your responsibility. It's not something, that the couple decides. It's really your financial well-being is up to you. And so to take
absolutely.
responsibility and have your hand in that. So very,
I
very important.
I agree with you 100%. So let's get back to your story. I'd love to know. I know that every story, every passion has a backstory. So I'm curious to know, was there a moment or maybe a time of struggle that led you to this work that may have shifted? I know because you started with the eggs and then you were doing the pillows and now you're doing coaching as well. So tell me a little bit about what those pivots were about and how you came to do what you're doing today.
Well, I'll tell you a significant pivot. And there's something, I mean, I'm sure you found this, that there's something about money and value and self-worth that's all tied in. And I was selling my eggs at a craft show, and at the time they were $35 each. And
Mm,
this interior designer who was in multiple magazines said, "I want to buy one of your eggs for each editor." At the magazines, and I'm talking House Beautiful, House and Garden, Better Homes and Gardens, and I wrap up, they were $35. I wrapped them all up. And at the end, she said, "Your eggs should be $300 each." And
mm.
I wanted to vomit. I was like, because I didn't think I was worth it. And over time, and it's a decision, but it's also a self-esteem building decision that I made is that I am worth it. So my pillows are 1,800 to $2,500, and I've sold them at that price. So, I had no trouble, claiming the price, but it's an inside job as well as a cognitive one. But that was definitely a turning point for me.
And it's magnificent that you had that experience and that you took what she said to heart. I know even I struggle with charging what I'm worth because I'm afraid that people will say, "Oh, I can't afford that," and just go without. So I end up shortchanging myself. And I recognize that, but it's a struggle that, that I experience, and I know a lot of women do. So finding your true value and charging for it, that's one of the most impactful things that you can do. And setting an example for everybody else for your worth.
When I do my coaching groups, I put these little tent cards on the table, and like you can't use the word should, just try, and the other one you can't use is can't afford, because
Love it.
what I say is you're choosing to put your resources elsewhere. It's
Mm.
not that you can't afford it, and so really understanding what's behind that, or I have to ask my husband. It's like that, you're taking away the choice from yourself. So I'm a big believer in getting paid what you're worth. And, for my coaching, I'm probably in a mid-range. I mean, there are people who charge, $1,000, $5,000 an hour. I'm not there, but I'm not ashamed of my prices at all. So I do believe in that, and it's a hard thing for women to claim. But when you say it with assurance, then it's not your customer. If they choose not to put their resources there, it's just not your customer.
Right. And I think that's part of the struggle too for a lot of women is that we want to please everybody, but we can't be something to everybody. And if they choose not to work with us, that's like you said, that's their choice and it wasn't the right fit for us. But letting
There's
it go, right?
Absolutely. And there's something about valuing yourself higher that makes people aspire to work with you. I work with Jane. I have one of Jane's pillows rather than, yeah, I got a couple of her pillows. They were the same price as Pottery Barn. It's like, no, it's something special. And there was a documentary on people who buy Jeff Koons art, for millions and millions of dollars. They said it has to be expensive so that you'll take care of it. And that's how I feel about my work is that if I'm going to have you buy this, I know that you'll take care of it because you valued it enough to spend this money on it. And the same thing with your service. It's like if they value themselves enough to have your service, they know they're going to a different level in their own self-esteem. So I'm a big believer in charging what you're worth, but also charging, good prices for your time.
Absolutely. Well, and you've spoken a little bit about the impact that you're having, but let's talk about that a little bit more. How are you empowering others, whether it's your clients, your team, or your community, to be the best versions of themselves while they're growing in influence and building their own wealth and self-confidence?
Yeah, I'm thinking of a woman in particular who I'm in a mentoring relationship with, and she's a very gifted artist, actress, writer, performer, and she was doing a group project, and she had some people paying what they would like to pay, like a sliding scale, and I said, that's really, anyhow, she's learning by experience. She did charge the lower rate, and then she was running out of money, and so now she's raising her rate. So some people just have to learn by experience, but me and another person are kind of double teaming her and saying, you're worth so much more than that. And so now 6 months later with a new group, she's going to charge a higher rate. But some people just have to experience it, and it's really focusing on what is my cost of living, and I use the mantra, pay yourself first. I have to make sure here's what my overhead is. My overhead means that my hourly rate has to be 125, 250, $500 an hour. And so if I'm, in order to live the lifestyle, I have to charge that. So it's math. It's not, I heard some, famous basketball player or celebrity athlete who had a multi-million dollar contract. He said, I got to feed the kids. It's like that's kind of a shortcut to saying I'm not accepting less than what my family has become accustomed to or what I have become accustomed to. I'd be shortchanging myself.
Absolutely. So I would love to know what makes the way you work with individuals different from other coaches.
Well, and this is not to put down other coaches, but I've always been entrepreneurial. I mean, I've been entrepreneurial since 1970 something. So I have the experience. Some people just learn how to coach, which is wonderful, and they can ask great questions. But I also can provide resources for people. I've been through the experience and I can share my own experiences with it and understand them from an authentic point of view. It's not like, well, I hear that entrepreneurs could or should. It's like, this was my experience, just like I told you about raising my prices. I'm not going to tell anybody to do something I haven't done myself or am not willing to do. And there's some people who are at a level that it's like you need somebody with even more experience than I have. But most people, the people I coach, are people who want to have a lifestyle business and live a life that they love. And this is how I've done it. And I've always, I like the expression, I live within my means, but my means don't define me. So
Ooh,
isn't that nice? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
And so,
that.
yeah, like this is what I'm dealing with. And I'm going to, yes, I could have a bigger apartment. I can't live in a better city than New York. That's out of there is no better city. But it's expensive to live in New York. So some people think I'm incredibly wealthy, and some people say, yeah, she's got a one bedroom apartment, So it's just, it's all relative. what matters is, that saying about, you're climbing the ladder of success, but what is your ladder leaning against? What is your value? And my value is that I love the work that I do. I love the people that I work with. I love the way I surround myself, the way I fill my own well all the time. And so that's what I deliver to people. And there's a spiritual message in there as well. It's not about the number of zeros. I know lots of people who have lots of zeros who are not happy. So
Mm.
it's not about that. It's really about fulfillment.
Well, and I can feel and sense your value and belief in what you're doing. Yeah, it just comes through in your speaking. So kudos to you
Thank
for
you.
that. Yes,
Thank
very.
you. A friend gave me the one of the nicest compliments. She said, "You are the most intentional person I know."
That is a
And
good compliment.
if we have a date on our calendar, sometimes I had the wrong time, like, you don't even have to remind me. I just, when I say something, I'm going to do it. And that is actually a rare commodity, surprisingly.
It's sad, isn't it? That's just
It is sad.
terrible, right?
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
that just to have that as a gentle reminder for me is to be intentional. So the newest intention for me is literally not talking about, but doing my 30 minutes of exercise every single day.
Wow.
In the past, I would say, okay, well, I exercise for 3 hours on Saturday, so now I don't have to do it. But my body knows it needs something every single day.
Yeah.
So I've been
That's
very
beautiful.
intentional about that just since Sunday. So I'm going to take credit for
Congratulations. I would have to give myself gold stars to to note my good behavior. I have to reward myself, and I do that. And I suggest it to my clients too, like, what reward will you give yourself for changing this behavior and trying on something new? And it could be a massage. It could be, I'm a big believer in gold stars. Like, when I get to 12 gold stars, then I can have blah, blah, blah. But it's your health that you're talking about, and we have to do that. And as we age, we do lose muscle mass, and so and I don't like exercise. So I went swimming this morning, and I go swimming a few times a week, and I'm doing some weightlifting when the trainer gets back. But I like your intention.
awesome, awesome. Well, here's a shift. I love to ask this question because it's always reveals something interesting. If you could sit down to lunch with any woman, living or deceased, who would that be, and why, and what would you want to ask her?
Well, two people come to mind, Oprah and Michelle Obama. You probably get that answer a lot. I just think these are women who had no advantages growing up, and being women of color, were at a disadvantage because we were privileged, to be born white, and they have gotten to the highest levels of society. Somebody asked Oprah once, "Did you read that book?" And she said, "Why would you think I would talk to an author without reading their book?" Like, these assumptions that are made, and the people that she knows and the life that she has. And I remember I subscribed to her magazine for years, and she said, she had the school in Africa, the girls' school. She had her magazine, she had her network, she had her television show, and she said everything was going on, and I knew I had to take a day to just meditate. And I thought, that's who I admire. That she said, me first. I've got to just, they say the way to clear muddy water is to let it sit. And so she just let it sit with her for a day. And then, I mean, she's genius. She's just so brilliant. And so the answers come. But to know I have to take care of myself first, the old oxygen mask thing. And I realize that when I'm, really frenetic, I've got to go back to myself. And I do meditate. I have a daily meditation practice that I've had since 92, so forever. And it definitely helps ground me. So Oprah, I'd say Oprah over Michelle. Sorry, Michelle. I'm available if you are, but I just think they're phenomenal women who have overcome amazing things. And Michelle, not going to the inauguration, not to get political, but just like, I am not going to put myself someplace where I don't want to be. And I
Mm,
I think that is tremendously courageous,
courageous.
and a great message, just to say, whether you agree with her or not, it's like, I am not going to be false to myself. And I'd like to think that I live that way pretty much. And Oprah, I really think does, other
Mm.
than wearing, very fancy shoes that she can't really walk in. you know,
Oh,
but
I
I,
love
I,
that analogy though. That's awesome. And the fact that Michelle is truly honoring herself. And that's nobody can
Exactly.
do that for you. You have to take that and do it yourself. That's awesome. Well, I
And then she
would
brought her mother to the White House. I love that, that her mother came and lived with them. It's like I would like to have that relationship with my kids, that they valued me so much that they would want me around like that. So
awesome, awesome. So I would love for you to share with our listeners where they can find more information about you, see your lovely work, and learn more about that coaching business. Where they
thank you,
can,
Donna. Yeah.
you're
So
welcome.
my website is www.janepollack. There's no C in my last name, JanePollak.com. And I have a monthly newsletter that is just a reminder. I'm just going to talk about this month. I don't know when this is airing, but my September newsletter is about the eggshell jewelry that I made and how I got to that. And it was an incredible entrepreneurial journey. So they can subscribe to my newsletter. I do have a YouTube channel, but I think just going to my website, they can find all about my coaching. They can find out my point of view. So happily, and I'm on Instagram too, so all the visuals are on Instagram. And again, Jane Pollack, just my name.
Okay, that's awesome. And y'all know anybody that's been tuned into any of my shows know that I love the community spirit. I love that we're supporting one another. So go out there, follow each other, support each other, promote each other, do the things because we don't know what we don't know, and we might just get introduced to somebody that can just change our lives. So thank you so much, Jane, for being our guest today. It was great to hear your story, learn from your wisdom, and hear from your heart. So for everybody that listens in today, you know how to reach out to her. Hope you'll do that. And no matter what stage of life you're in, it's never too late to redefine success on your terms and build that life that genuinely reflects your worth. So thank y'all for being here today. Thank you for tuning in to the Money Matters Empower Her podcast. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you want.